In this video, we're going to look at how to configure the non-conformance module and the corrective action module. So I'm just going to edit a non-conformance, and as I said, the drop-down fields where, for example, you have source, where we have category type, subtype, root cause, where we have a rating, where we have a department, and so forth, the external entity. All of these are configurable. So anything with the drop-down menus in particular, they're configurable. We can turn them on and off, and we can also change the field names in most of these fields as well. How do we go about that? Well, primarily it's going to be through the non-conformance module itself. You come to configurations. So the source is on the top. Where do we identify it? You can come in here and you can add different sources. Okay, so you can add a new one. Okay, and also then down here we can come in and we can edit an existing one. Down here we can change the text and save it, and the last one, another one might be if we want to delete it, we can just set that to no and save it as well. As always, if you select something to no and you save it, you can come along over here then up to the active, select active to no, apply your filter and come back, and you can see this one down. And again, to just make so active is kind of like deleted, but again you can come in and undelete it, so I reverse it later on. So by just coming back into the history folder, the inactive, I'm going to make it active again, hit save, and over here. So, and don't forget to change the filter over here back to yes, apply that. So these are all the active ones. You can add, edit, and delete, and so forth. Some clients just access the link that when they have a certain source, that if depending on the source, an external entity, for example, supplier or contractor or vendor, must also be completed. So if the source was like a complaint, then in that case the external entity field must be done, and that's what you do there if you turn that on to yes. The other fields are basically okay, I'll come back to the category. That's a slightly more involved one. The rating, which is the rating of the NC. So if you had 100 NCs on the page and you want to say, well, which ones are more serious than the others, you can put in a rating, for example, like high, medium, or low. And inside there, also, depending on the age, we can have a little alert saying, you know, if we expect the highs to be closed off in 7 days, you can put in a date there as well, and we can have a message popping up, say, what do you want to appear in after 7 days in that case. But the main thing is, as I said, you might not want to have a weighting. The corrective actions, if you remember, do have their own weighting by virtue of the fact that you give them a time frame. So critical might be 7 days and major 30 days and so forth. But for the NC itself, you can have this rating, which may or may not be useful for you. So down below, another one then would be the active ingredient in the product list. This is where you could use it for products. If you had maybe a complaint about a product that was supplied for quality assurance, something like that, you could just put in your active product list over here and add in new products. Equally, you can edit an existing product, and you could also then just set that to no, and that'll delete it, and you can repeat the process later on and make it active again. So that's just the active product ingredient list. We explained a while where we can change this name. So you might decide, hey, I'd like to use this, but maybe not for quality, but I'd like to have a field where we've dropped down options that I can select. Well, again, if we change the name of this field, which we show you in a while, then you can maybe reportion this field, this field for something else. So another configuration down here would be the non-conformance authorizers. So when we go to complete a non-conformance, we then have the option of the verification step as well. So in that case, when something is complete and you hit save, we have the verify button will appear. So we can turn the verify button on and off. And in that case, then you have to be an approved verifier and so forth to actually come in. And this is where we can add in what you can be set up to approve. So the first one, we can come in. I'm going to select a name over here. I'm going to say Tony. The authorization in this case is that Tony could be a verifier for the NC and the CA to verify. Another type of verification is if we want to say, okay, the non-conformance is going to be set to long-term. Now, long-term, again, as an example, you have a damaged roof. It's going to cost 2 million to fix it. That's not going to happen for at least 2 years. This thing is going to be sitting on the weekly report. So you could just have an extra flag in there called long-term, meaning that you don't want to forget about it. It's there, but it doesn't have to be maybe in as high up the list as the week-to-week ones that you want to be monitoring. And the last one is a corporate alert. This is where you set a role for somebody, if they wanted here, to be able to say, yeah, I want to send a corporate alert out to some of our other locations about this NC that's been recorded today. Again, somebody has to have the ability there to be set. So depending on the person you select, you can give them 1, 2, 3, or none of these roles, as the case may be. The next one then over here, the other configurations are the external entity. This is where you're dealing with a third party. So the external entity could be a supplier. Okay, so we've done here contractor, a vendor, customer. If I wanted to add in a supplier, well, in this case, I can, over here, I can come down and I can add in different vendors, customers, and contractors down here in the list. And I can select the type of entity, but I can't add a new entity here. So I'm going to show you, if you want to add a new entity called supplier, I'm going to show you where to that. But if these entities, if you're happy with the entities you have already entered, you can come down here and put in the name of ABC is they're a contractor, and XYZ is a vendor, and somebody else is a customer. You can put them in and save them. And then when you go to the external entity, you can have if you build it up here in the configuration section, you have a library of all these external entities, or else during the addition of a new NC, you can actually add it there as well. Okay, so this is where we come in. But as I said, how do I pre-configure in a new one here called supplier? In this case, I just come back to the configuration menu. I come to the type of entity, and over here I have customer, contractor, vendor, and all I have to do over here, very simple, I'm just going to type in supplier, hit save on that, and then I have a new entity there as well. So the other entity that's inside, if we go back in there to the non-conformity, we have to have a look over here then under the one that was called external, or the category type, subtype, root cause. So depending on what I select over here, I might have safety, quality, environment as my types. Falling off safety, I want to have a type. What types of safety NCs do I want? So I might have, say, some to do with the management system. And under the management system, well, what subtypes under the management system are there? So under safety management system, I can have training, communication, all the elements of your ISO standard, for example, here. And then under here, we want to say possible cause. Well, when we're putting down when we're describing what the issue is, the more we have configured up here, the less text we have to enter. So if we come in over here, then the possible cause would be, well, what is it about your safety system, your safety management system, and training in particular that's wrong? And you can put in these. Was it lack of training? Somebody needed a refresher training. Somebody didn't do induction. Somebody didn't sign a training record. You can put it up. So how do we build these up? Well, we come in, we start with the category, then we add the types, you add the subtypes and possible causes, and we just link them like a thread one by one as we go through. It's probably best to plan this on paper before you start configuring this, before you have a clear idea. So I'm just going to come through over here again in the non-conformity. And what we do over here is I come in first to the category. So I can have safety, quality, environment, and as I said, I can add in a new one there, maybe financial, and so forth. As before, we can edit the text on these, and we can delete them by making that inactive and undo that later on if you wanted as well. So once we've got our types, the next thing, the category, the next thing I want to do is come in, I want to select my type. So I can put in here, if you remember under safety, I had safety management system. So there's my category safety, linked to safety management system. Of course, I can put in another type inside there, but I'm happy with safety as a safety manager as the main type here. And then the next one I wanted to come in is under the type, we have subtype. And a while ago under safety management system, I just linked out all the clauses of my ISO standard. Now this is a sandbox, I don't have them all there, but I can link out the clauses of my standard. So these are for safety, and then there's some repetition here when we go down to environmental. So literally I can come in here, I can select my my type, and over here add in my subtype. And then the last one, obviously you probably guessed at this stage, when I come into the possible cause, in this case, I'm going to have a subtype, and for each subtype, remember a while ago I had training, I could link in some possible causes, and the possible causes I had for training a while ago were lack of training, needs refresher training, no induction, other, and so forth. And again, with these ones, with the whole way we go through it is we're linking the subtype, which is in this case training, back over to the root cause, and you can enter the name of the root cause over there as well. So I said best to probably have a little bit of planning before you configure this, but that's the way it'll work then when you add the NC. The corrective action is the same. So again, it's simpler to configure the corrective action. The categories are where we can come in and we could have high, medium, low. As I said, it's a good idea when you add these, you specify the number of days. So if you put critical here as like 1 day, then the action will be in progress until that 1 day passes, and if the action isn't completed after that 1 day, it's going to show up as overdue. So, but it's best to put in here, if you had critical, it's best to put in the description what it is, even though when I specified a number of days here, it's just at least when you make the selection and you then look at the calendar, you know at the calendar how many days is added on from today. You don't have to do that, but it's just a tip that's probably worth doing. So you can add in your new ones there. As before, you can edit, as before you can delete and so forth as well. The other one that's useful under the corrective action down here is the ability to have a grouping. Again, you don't have to have this, but it might be if you're looking at 100 corrective actions and somebody says, so what? Well, you can say 10% of these are due to lack of calibration, 5% lack of training, 15% lack of documentation, 22% lack of training, whatever. You can create your own groupings here and set them up, and that'll be a drop down within the corrective action. Okay, if I don't want some of these fields, what do I do? Well, I come out and not just into the NC configuration is specifically for the NC, the CA configuration is for the CA. If you come to the system, there's a more general configuration section up here. So if I wanted to come through over here and I want to look at the non-conformance, be sure to select non-conformance, apply the search, and these are the fields that I can turn on and turn off then as well. So if I turn off these fields, when I go back into the add NC, they won't be visible inside there. If I want to make some of these fields that are on this list as required, I'd like to have a red asterisk next to it, I can turn them on as well, which means they have to be completed. So that's just some of the options under this one. The same will apply to the corrective action. If I come in here, apply that. I've mentioned in the training video, we've turned off preventative action. We've just left root cause and corrective action. Preventative action since 2015 isn't strictly necessary, but if you want to have it, you can turn it on there. And if you don't like the grouping option, as I said, if you had 100 corrective actions and you wanted to group 10% lack of training, 50% lack of maintenance, if you don't want to have that grouping field, turn that off and it's there. And again, is required just means it's mandatory or not as well inside there. And then just under the general settings tab, the first one, you've got some other fields. And in this case, is remedial action required to complete an NC? So this means you'll have the remedial action on and you expect somebody to complete it. Is corrective action required? So in this case, it is possible to log an NC and not have a corrective action. It mightn't just need one. But if you said no, you always want to have corrective actions for NCs, then you can make this yes. We have the option of allowing contractors for our clients to log in and create NCs on the client system, but you talk to us about that. And over here, the short NC creation, again, this is maybe for the shop floor where you want operators to log very basic details about an NC, and that can come in then and you can complete the rest of the fields. But from simplicity, it's like a suggestion box, you could just turn on 2 or 3 fields that need to be completed rather than the whole form. Just make it simpler for the users who don't use the system too often. Same under the corrective action. If you want to have comments or root cause necessary to be completed before you allow the corrective action to be marked complete, you can do that. And target date notification is where we can send alerts 2 days out or 2 weeks out, 1 week out, whatever, inside for the recipient of the corrective action inside, so they can get different alerts too. The last tab is one, again, probably talk to us in support, but if we're setting up blank accounts, we're able to come in over here and generate data. So, but what we like to do over here is come in, select the module first, and then we're able to come in here and decide if for new clients we can put in generic data so as they're not starting with a completely blank site. So again, we can come in here, select these ones, generate the data, and it'll give you some default data in these fields or just one or more of the fields. So then you're not starting from a completely blank database. And finally, just on this video, we're going to just look at also configuration for changing the names of similar fields. In this case, come to there's a menu we want to come to under System, Configuration, come down to Language Management. In this case, if I wanted to change comments to something else, I can type in the word comments over here. The resource keys, which don't use that. This is more from the programming end. But over here, I want to come into comment, and what I want to do is apply the search. I can now come in, change comment, and I'm going to change that over to description of NC. I'm going to save that. And what will happen now when I come back into my nonconformity over here, I come to edit it, the comments box will now be replaced by You can see if you look down the page, comments has now changed over to description of NC inside that one. And that's it. That's where it is. So again, if I wanted to change active product ingredient list, I can come in and do that as well. So again, for all these ones, if you're unsure, contact support. We'd be delighted to help you on those ones as well. Thank you.